Donda, 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 Donda.
I like some of the Gaga songs. What the fuck does she know about cameras?
Donda, the newest album from a man who needs absolutely no introduction at all. You guys all know who Kanye West is, arguably one of the greatest rappers of all time. Arguably maybe even the greatest rapper currently alive. And he's just put out a new album called Donda. And like pretty much any other release he's ever had, it's a huge event. Everyone's talking about this right now. And having just listened to it, there is a lot I could say about this album. Probably a lot that you guys have already heard, but I'm not sure because I haven't really dug deep into the reviews on this album or how people really feel about it yet. I tend to try to avoid those kinds of things when I know that I'm gonna review something, so that way my opinion doesn't really sway towards what most of the public thinks. And I'll be completely honest here, even though there is a lot I could talk about with this album, and I could probably talk about each song individually if I wanted to, I'm not going to want to talk about every track on this thing. One, because this is a long-ass album clocking in at 1 hour and 49 minutes roughly. And I have only listened to the album once all the way through. And not to really spoil my final thoughts on the record, but I didn't enjoy it that much to be able to want to listen to it again. If it were just, say, like 1 hour long, then sure, I would probably give it another listen, but I mean, 1 hour and 49, you know, that's pushing 2 hours long, which is just a lot, and it's very time consuming. At least when you're taking into the consideration what the average album listening experience is like, and mainly how long it is. Having said that, I do have my thoughts and my opinions on quite a bit of these tracks, so I will go down the list. I'll be going in order like I do with the rest of my album reviews. The album opens with the interlude Donda chant, which is spoken by Selena Johnson, which is very cool to me. I'm sure most of you guys probably know this, but she was a feature on one of his first very popular singles, All Falls Down. And right off the bat, we're hitting one of the album's central themes and one of its central subjects, which is Kanye West's mother, whose name is in fact Donda, who also sadly passed away in 2007. Apparently this song is supposed to represent his mother's last moments, her last heartbeats, and that's why it kind of fluctuates between the speed that the words are being spoken. It's only 52 seconds, but it's a very memorable 52 seconds and certainly gets the album off to a kind of dark start. We then move on to the track Jail, which has a feature from Jay-Z. And his feature in this song is by far my favorite part of it. I love whenever he says, "This might be the return of the throne, over on Jesus, like Moses and Jesus." That is such a killer line. And the beat to the song is just okay. It's very bass driven and kind of just repeats throughout most of the song. However, there is actually a bit of a change around the 420 mark where we get more of a percussive driven beat, and I thought that was a pretty cool way to end the song. Skipping ahead to track 4, we have Off the Grid, which has much more of a trap influence on it. And even though I have said in the past that I'm not a huge fan of trap beats and trap influenced music, this was kind of a breath of fresh air in the record at this point. Because before this, the record to me was just very kind of slow moving musically. Because up to this point in the record, I think that the tracks were just kind of slow moving. There wasn't really a lot of energy. And this one, I think, provided that. This track also features Fivio Foreign and Playboi Carti, and I think Fivio has some pretty good lines, like when he says, "If you got a voice, then you gotta project it. If you got a wrong, then you gotta correct it. If you got a name, then you gotta protect it. If you give me a shock, then you got electric." Ooh. And I absolutely loved Kanye's flow whenever he comes in. I think it was like around a 3:45 mark. That's what I wrote down in my notes, so I assume I'm right with that. But I love the way he came in and just the way that he closed out the track. In the next track, Hurricane, has features from The Weeknd and Lil Baby. And this one I think I have actually heard some people talking about, and I've heard some buzz about, I think. Honestly, I just kind of thought it was okay. I mean, the features were alright. I did think it was dumb though when Kanye was like, that whole thing. That was sort of over the top, I think. Skipping ahead to track 7, we have Jonah, which for me was one of the standouts in the album. And this one features Lil Durk and Vori. I particularly liked the chorus that Vori delivered, and Lil Durk gets pretty personal with some of his lyrics. He mentions one of his friends who apparently passed away when he was 26. I got your son and your daughter like you still here. Know how it feel to lose a brother. We got a bond still. 26 years, Pops got out to see his son killed. Pretty intense subject matter, and I think for that reason it stands out amongst the album. I think the song Junior featuring Playboi Carti had a pretty decent beat put together. It's mainly driven by this organ. We hear these sort of claps in the middle, like, it's pretty cool. And then the following track 10, Believe What I Say, was another standout on the album for me. And this one actually samples Lauryn Hill's 1998 song Doo Wop. I thought that was a cool choice to sample one of her songs. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Lauryn Hill, so I think that's really cool. And maybe it's just me, but I feel like this would have fit right into the album Graduation very well. We have the kick drums being played and the bass part. It just, the sound of this song sounds so much like that era of Kanye's career. Going ahead to track 13, we have Moon, which features Kid Cudi and Don Toliver. And I thought this was a solid track, but it did kind of remind me of, you know, that saying when people say it's short but sweet. Except with this song, I would put it the other way. It was sweet but short. It was like enjoyable, but it was just so short that, oh no, I don't think I really ever need to revisit it again. Which is kind of funny to me because I actually just looked up how long it was, and it's 2:36. And I don't know why, but when I was listening to the album, it just seemed to have gone by a lot quicker than that. I assume it was probably less than 2 minutes. Then you get the title track, Donda, which features Stallone and the world famous Tony Williams. And this one just pretty much has a piano playing the whole time, these very spaced out sort of dissonant notes. And the song also has an interlude spoken by his mother, Donda West, which is apparently from an address that she made at Chicago State University in October of 2007. And that was very touching, I think, to hear her speaking on this album, to hear her voice. And this song does not have Ariana Grande on it. Everyone thought that was Ariana Grande, I guess. Everyone thought it was Stallone was Ariana, but it's not. She shut down the rumors. It's not her. I thought it was her, honestly, but yeah, it's not her. Track 16, we got Keep My Spirit Alive, featuring Conway the Machine, Westside Gunn, and K-Sai. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. There are so many freaking features on this album. But talking about the beat to this one, I found the snare sound to be a very interesting sound to go with. It almost sounds like if you fused the sound of a snare drum and a tom-tom and just combine those two. It was interesting. It was very echoey. There's also these very ambient synths being played in the background, which I thought were a nice touch. And he says he's 42 in the song, so I guess we are to assume this was recorded a couple years ago because he's 44 now. And we have the track Jesus Lord, which is a very emotional song when you look into some of the lyrics. He of course talks about his mom and how she was the life of the party, and then when she passed away, it took the life out of the party. There's some other really great lines in here, like you better have a strategy or you could be a statistic. He talks about his cousins, seeing them in a sale and how that scarred him. And Buzz Lightyear, but I'm just reaching for the stars like Buzz Lightyear. Yeah. This one does feature Jay Electronica, and his part wasn't bad, but kind of towards that part of the song, I felt like it was dragging on a little bit. It's almost 9 minutes long, and I think they definitely could have trimmed it down a little bit. But overall, it was still a solid song. Television, featuring Pop Smoke, had this really awesome piano part. Very simple, just being played throughout the entire song. And really throughout the entire album, I do think that they made good uses of the piano. And then in track 20, Lord I Need You, which features the Sunday Service Choir, there are some lines that are maybe about Kim Kardashian. When you said you give me a ring, you really meant a ring, huh? Turned out to be more than just a fling, huh? I did also like the higher notes that Kanye tries to reach whenever he says, speak first, don't break me. I thought that was cool and sort of rare to hear him singing that high, I think. Then Pure Souls featuring Shenseea and Roddy Ricch, I think is one of the more catchy songs on the album, and one that is a little bit more singable, I think, to most people. Especially that one line.
The truth, the only thing you get away with.
The track Come to Life I thought was a good one. I thought the one line was pretty funny. Brought a gift to Northie, all she wanted was Nikes. But going back to the piano though, I love the piano in the outro, and I actually play marimba for those of you who don't know, and I think that this is easily something that I could learn and would like to learn on there. So yeah, in the future sometime I might actually learn this. But then skipping ahead to the last 4 tracks on the album, they are all part 2s to previous tracks. We have Jail Part 2, OK OK Part 2, Junior Part 2, and Jesus Lord Part 2. And I think this is where I start to talk about what specifically I didn't like about the album. And I think one of the main things does have to do with the length of it. Like I said, it's nearly 2 hours long. And I think that these last 4 parts of it, these part 2s, were honestly unnecessary, and they just weren't needed. They really weren't that much different from the part 1s that we got. And I think that No Child Left Behind would have been a much more fitting ending to the record. I didn't really love that song, but it would have ended it on kind of a relaxing note, and I just think it would have fit better that way. Yeah, I think that is one of my main issues with it. It's just how long it is, and it really does feel very bloated, and the length of it just isn't really justified, I think. There were moments of the album that did kind of just feel like filler to me, and some of the tracks kind of blended together and sound the same to me. And I don't actually know if this is true. I haven't done too much reading on it, but you know, obviously Kanye did put out that statement that Universal released the album without his permission. And so maybe if that is true and that he did have more to work on with the album, then maybe it wouldn't have felt as bloated, or maybe there would have been other tracks added to it that would sort of give its length more justification. But all in all, what we did get and what the final project is, I think was alright. It certainly wasn't anything disgusting or offensive, at least to me. I do appreciate and admire the message that Kanye is trying to put across, and certainly this album did have its highlights, but it did also have its lows. And I mean, I don't know if there was any back-to-back tracks that I really, really liked. I mean, there were moments when I did like 2 songs back-to-back, okay, but never really any that I really, really liked, and liked so much that I would consider, you know, downloading or whatever. But yeah, I feel like I've talked about this for a long time now. I've been recording for I don't even know how long, so I'm just gonna wrap in my thoughts. I think it's an okay album, and yeah, I'm gonna give Donda a C+. So if you're watching this, you probably have heard this album by now. Let me know what you think. What are some of your favorite tracks? How do you think it ranks amongst Kanye's discography? And to end this video with the words of a wise man, I low-key don't f*** with that bitch Stormy. Take it easy, everyone. Peace out.